What's going on, everybody? So as promised, I'm here with a Q&A video. I'm at 107 subscribers now. Again, thank you to every single one of you. I'm glad that you guys are coming back and giving me positive feedback on all of my videos. I'm glad you keep coming back and talking movies and music with me. I enjoy talking to every one of you. So now, let's get to your questions. Garrett asks, I always hear you talk about the same old scary movie plots, devil possession, zombies, etc. But what do you think could spice things up? Well, two ways you can go about spicing up horror movies nowadays. One is to go back to basics. Go back to what made classic horror movies like Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street and Pet Sematary and movies like that. Go back to basics and execute those basics very, very tightly. Trim all the fat off of the movie. Don't have these little bullshit subplots and these little side characters that nobody cares about and try to be all, social commentary and all this craziness. Just have a very basic story. Execute it well, and trim all the fat off of the movie. That's something that doesn't happen very often. The closest thing we've got to that lately was Lights Out, which wasn't a perfect movie, but they trimmed all the fat off of it, and for the most part, it was a really tight, executed movie. Also, if you're going to have kills in your movie, make them creative, make them memorable. We have seen so many different ways to dismember people over the past 30, 40 years for horror movies that nowadays they're kind of getting a little bit stale. You have to do something to make the movie memorable. You don't remember Friday the 13th, Part 3 and Part 4 and Part 5 and all those old movies because of the overlying story and all of the, plot twists and all that kind of stuff. You remember it because, oh, that's the one where Jason killed him in this way, or this is the one where he set people on fire inside of a sleeping bag. And, that's something that if you're going to have a slasher movie or a movie with kills, that's also one big thing that a lot of people skip over that makes your movie stand out. The second way that you can do something to make it be a little bit more fresh is to leave all the jump scares and all the CGI at the door. Focus on tone, focus on atmosphere, focus on sound design, and focus on lighting. Give us a movie that is all terror because of tone and because of the way the movie makes you feel and the way it sounds. Like a movie that I reviewed in my Off the Shelves episode last month was Session 9. Which is one of the greatest horror movies ever because it's not a slasher or a CGI fest or a demon possession movie or anything like that. It's just a movie about these 4 guys or 5 guys that are in an insane asylum cleaning up the asbestos, and just the tone, the sound design, and the feeling of that asylum just chills you down to your spine. And they used elements like that, sound design, lighting, everything like that. That's how older movies used to get terror when they didn't have CGI and all that shit we have nowadays to use. Like Halloween, the original one, it was all sound design and lighting and tone. So if you can focus on that and give us a movie that's really, really scary because of those elements, that will also put you above the pack. Karen asks, where do babies come from? Well, you see, when a man and a woman love each other. And there you go. Abbott asks, did you actually rewatch Animal House and Big Lebowski after the Top Comedy Movies podcast? So for those of you that don't know what he's talking about, back before I did YouTube videos, I ran a podcast. All of my episodes are on my YouTube channel, but they're all audio only. So you can go check those out if you're interested. In one of the episodes of my Top 5 rundown, I had a buddy of mine from Ohio where I grew up, Abbott Skelding, come on. He runs his own podcast, the Creative Cohorts podcast. I had him on as a guest, and we both ran down our top 5 comedies of all time. And his, I believe, were, you had Animal House, Big Lebowski, obviously, because he asked for those 2. He had Young Frankenstein, he had Super Troopers, and he had Dirty Work. And the 3 movies that he listed that I have never seen, I actually went out and bought, except for Young Frankenstein. I bought the Animal House and the Big Lebowski, and I sent him a text showing that I had bought them because I told him I would watch them and give them another chance. Because I've seen both of them, but they didn't quite grab me the way that they grabbed Abbott, and they grab a lot of people because those are very popular movies. And to answer your question, Abbott, no, I have not. It's one of those things where once I started getting into this, I've had so many movies that I've had to watch and review and so many videos that it's just kind of fallen to the wayside for now, but I will make you a deal. If you watch Dutch and Sex Drive, which is 2 of the movies that I mentioned on my top 5, I think one of them was an honorable mention and the other one was number 5, I guarantee you I will stop what I'm doing I guarantee you I will stop whatever I'm doing and I will watch Animal House and The Big Lebowski right then if you text me and tell me that you've watched those 2 movies. So, go. Eric asks, alright, so I have a question, but it's not a popular one, and I have no idea if you're even into it. But tell me what you think of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. A motherfucking cult classic. They recently redid it and I fucking loved it. Most people did not. Well, to be completely honest, I have never seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I know that is, just like you said, a lot of people love that movie. It's a cult classic for whatever reason, and I know this is probably going to sound really, really ignorant to those who love the movie because it's probably not at all what the movie's about. Just a movie focused on a cross-dressing Tim Curry has never really appealed to me very much. I don't know if it's a musical or a comedy or a drama. Honestly, I don't know hardly anything about the movie. I know that it's a huge pop culture phenomenon. It's referenced constantly. It's brought up in movies constantly, like Perks of a Wallflower. They're putting on the play of that movie so many times. So I honestly have not seen it. Now, you know my movie taste. So if you do think that I would like it, any of you who are watching, please comment below and tell me. And if it is something that a lot of people are telling me I would enjoy, I'll give it a shot. Now, I can answer something that I think is in the meat of your question when you're talking about the remake and why people don't like it. I think a lot of people have a lot of false problems with remakes. Now, we live in a time where more remakes, more reboots, sequels, reimaginings, adaptations are being made more nowadays than they have ever been. So people are getting a little bit burnt out when the majority honestly aren't very good. You know, a lot of them are made for money reasons. They're made because people recognize the name, and because whether or not it's good or it's even close to the original, people are going to flock out to the theaters, put their asses in the seat, and pay their $7 to $10. So that's why a lot of those ideas get pushed to the forefront in front of original ideas, because if you have a guy with an original horror movie that may or may not appeal to the mass audience, or you have a guy with the umpteenth Friday the 13th movie, they're going to give this guy the money because they know a lot of people are going to see Friday the 13th and they're going to run to the theater, even though this movie might be 10 times better. And there's been a lot of disappointing remakes out there, and it's gotten to the point where people, every time, especially classic movies, like the Ghostbusters remake especially, that one was a really ugly one, people get just out of their mind, upset and mad, and they act like it is the end-all, be-all, like we're all going to die if that movie gets made. And it's a little bit ridiculous. So what I will tell you is that, you know, you have those people that say, oh, you're ruining the original. Obviously you love the original, Eric. And as you said, you really, really loved the remake. I don't know if you like it better than the original or not, but you really enjoyed it. So celebrate that. You have the original, you can watch it whenever you want, and now you have this other version of the movie that you can watch whenever you want. And even on the flip side, let's say that remake came out and you thought it fucking sucked and it just pissed you off and there's nothing about it that you like. You still have the original on your shelf. Nobody is coming to you. Like, people act like if you watch the remake, then like the book Fahrenheit 451, somebody's going to come into your house and torch all the originals or something like that. You always have the original. Like, for example, the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. I talked about this in a top 5 rundown, and I think it was one of my viewer questions back when I did my podcast about worst remakes. That movie, when I think of worst remakes, that always comes to mind because A Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite horror movie of all time, the original. And that remake was one of the worst sorry-ass excuses for a version of Nightmare on Elm Street than I could have ever fathomed would come to the theaters. But I still have the original. But the fact that I've seen that remake multiple times and it gets worse every time I see it doesn't change the fact that the first one and the original was so great. I can go watch it whenever I want. Every time I put it on, I don't think about the remake. It's not like whenever I put the new one on, or the old one on, I just think about the remake the whole time and it just ruins the experience for me. So that's what I'll say to you. If you love the remake, love the remake. Don't listen to what other people say. If you like it, you like it. Nick McQuick asks, how tall are you and how good is your dunk? Well, I'm 6'1", so I'm a pretty tall guy, and my dunk is legendary. Now watch closely because this is a very simple technique, but it is so often done wrong. You take your milk, take your cookie of choice, and you put it all the way to the bottom of the glass. Don't worry about getting your fingers wet, man. We're having snacks here. Ain't no reason to be fussing about your damn fingers being wet. Just let it sit there and let it marinate and just enjoy it. Feel the cold milk around your fingers. And as soon as you could feel the cookie start to get a little bit soft between your fingers, then it is done. Yeah, you can let it drip off a little bit. No need to make a mess. You know, we're enjoying ourselves. But we're not getting crazy here. And there you go. That is my dunk. Manti Klosh, and I apologize if I'm screwing up your name, asks, are you going to review the HTC Vive? I absolutely want to. From everything that I'm reading, that is the best VR experience out there, and it's hard for me to imagine anything being better than the PlayStation VR. So if there's something better than that, I absolutely want to try it, and I'd love to review it. But unfortunately, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to, because not only do I not have the money for that, because I think it's like $700 or $800, I don't have a desktop computer either. So for me to actually play the HTC Vive, assuming that one of my friends or family doesn't get it, which I guarantee none of them are, it would take me almost $1,500. So probably not. But if I do get a chance to play it, whether it's a friend, a family, or a demo at a store or anything like that, I will make a video talking about it, because as I said in my PlayStation VR review, I was blown away at what that thing did. I was always a naysayer of VR, like, whatever, it's not really going to be that great, it's a fad. And man, I'm telling you, whenever I put that headset on and just descended down into the ocean, that simple little VR demo, I was blown away, I was hooked, and I was addicted. So if there's something better out there, I'm absolutely wanting to try it. So hopefully I'll get the chance to do it, but if I'm going to be honest, it's probably leaning towards no, unfortunately. The Silver Screen Analysis asks, if you were given the keys to the Rambo reboot, who would you cast as Rambo and why, since Stallone has stepped down? Congrats on Hundo. Well, thank you very much. Alright, so for those of you that don't know, they've been trying to do another Rambo movie for quite some time. You know, he did, I think it was 2007 or 2008, whenever Rambo, the fourth one, came out, and that was a badass sequel. It was gory, it was crazy, and that one, I don't really care for number 2 and number 3. I know I'm one of the few. I love First Blood. To me, that's the only movie, but I love the fourth Rambo as well. So I go from 1 to 4. And I've been waiting for them to kind of either give us a sequel or give us something else, because Stallone is on a roll with his, returning to these older roles. I mean, what he's doing with Rocky is phenomenal. What he did with Rambo is great. So I think he had a really great fifth Rambo movie in him, but unfortunately he doesn't want to do another one, so they're going to be handing that role over to somebody else and doing a reboot. So if I was given the keys to the Rambo reboot, I would drive that bitch right off a cliff, because that movie does not need to be made. That movie, like I just said to Eric about the remakes, so I'm going to contradict myself a little bit, not every movie should be remade. Obviously, if the movie comes out and it's horrible, whatever, I still have the original, I'm not going to care. But there's some movies that just are a product of their time, or is so perfectly done, like Back to the Future is perfectly done, that you shouldn't even bother trying to do a remake. How are you going to do a Rambo reboot? There's not really anything in today's society that merits a Rambo reboot. Vietnam was one of those wars where it fit that story. A soldier coming back, people are spitting on them, calling them baby killers, because all that shit really happened. And all the PTSD and, coming home and just wanting to go back to war, that doesn't really fit in today. You know what I mean? There's not really anything like that going on with the Iraq and the Afghan wars. There's people out there who protest it, obviously, but it's a very small amount of people. The majority of people support our troops nowadays. So I don't know how you can do a Rambo reboot. If you're going to do the story of First Blood, I mean, if they're just going to throw a badass, special ops soldier or whatever off into the Afghan wars and you just watch him kick ass for 2 hours, then sure, that's going to be kind of a watered down version of Rambo. But anyway, assuming that I was in charge of the Rambo reboot and we had a really good idea, who would I cast as Rambo? That's a really hard one. If I had to do my pick, and this is a guy who would never do a Rambo remake, but is the only actor that I think if I saw him attached to a Rambo remake, I would be really interested, and that's Tom Hardy. Not only could he bring some real ferocity to that role, but we've seen that guy get fucking jacked for movies before. Look at Warrior. That guy, if you brought his character from Warrior and told me, hey, this is your new Rambo, I'd be like, here's my money, I'm in. You know what I mean? So that would be my pick. But like I said, I can't see Tom Hardy ever doing a Rambo remake, even if they had the most golden script in the world. So that would be my pick, but I hope that movie, I hope it does well. I hope they have a good idea. Otherwise, I hope it just kind of goes away, because I don't see them recapturing anything that they captured in First Blood. Sean Chandler asks, if you could write and direct a movie, what type of movie would you make, and would you want to star in it? For the sake of the question, we'll assume you're a world-class writer, director, and actor. Well, this is going to kind of echo my first question by Garrett. If you could write and direct a movie, what type of movie would I make? I'd make a horror movie. For two reasons. One, I'm a horror fanatic. It's always been pretty much my favorite movie genre, even though it's very, very, very hard to be a horror movie fan nowadays, because you really have to be patient for a really good one. You get mountains of shit, you get 2 or 3 passable movies, and you'll get 1 or 2 really good horror movies a year if you are lucky. And that is why I would want to direct one, because if assuming that I'm a world-class writer, director, and actor, I would want to bring something fresh to the table using all those things that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. You know, I've written, I mean, I'm not a world-class writer by any means. I've written a few stories / short stories / screenplays for horror movies before. You know, when I was in high school, whenever we'd get a project for writing, I would always write horror. And not that this is the movie that I would do, but I had a movie that I had written. And it was basically a story, but I wrote it as a movie. I was picturing a movie in my head. And it was basically a mix between like Wrong Turn and Texas Chainsaw, kind of like a really scaled down version of those movies without all the gore. And it basically took place in this really secluded southern town that you could barely find. It was not on the map. You had to like get lost basically to find it. And the people in this town were fascinated by Northerners. And this is going to be a real scaled down version of that script, so it might sound like it sucks, but it was actually a really good story. And it took place from the point of view of this family. It was a husband, a mother, and a son. And the script that I wrote kept switching between 2 points of views. One would be the point of view of this young boy, 10 or 11 years old, and it would show like basically the everyday workings of this town. And the other perspective was from this family, you know, being the outsiders looking in and showing the weirdness of the everyday workings of this town. And throughout the story, some sinister things start kind of coming to fruition, and you know, the mayor's was basically kind of like the big bad of the story. And they had this big museum that they're getting ready to unveil to everybody, where they've been working on it, and it's under a big, you know, cloak basically. They won't let anybody inside. And towards the end of the story, the mother disappears eventually, the little boy disappears eventually, and the husband is the only one left, and he believes there's something going on in that museum. So he goes in eventually at the very end of the story. He goes in after getting stabbed a couple of times, and he can't find his attacker, and he ends up going into this museum. And you know, I don't reveal in the story what he sees, but he sees something. And then all of a sudden he's taken off a camera, like somebody gets him and he's done. And then the story wraps up, and it's from the boy in the town's perspective on the day of the opening, like it ends up being 3 or 4 years later, which you don't find out till the end of the story from the family's perspective. And he's going in, he ends up being the son of the mayor, or the adoptive son of the mayor. And he comes in, and the museum is all the northern states, and they have stuffed people like Ohioans and Michiganians, and you know, people from Illinois and Maine, and whatever state that I had them from, he always kind of was drawn to seeing. He's drawn to them, and it's actually his parents, and the little boy was the little boy from the family. So it sounds confusing as hell, and I'm trying to scale it down, but something along those lines I've always wanted to do. Some really cool, twisty story with, you know, some macabre stuff in there, and try to focus on tone and lighting, and you know, building tension versus all the crap that we get today. Would I want to star in it? For that story, no. If I was going to do one, though, it would really depend on what I'm doing. And it would depend on how big of a name that I am. Because one thing, as much as I don't like Rob Zombie's movies, there's one thing that he said in an interview that's absolutely a fact when it comes to horror movies. And he said, one thing that plagues horror movies of today is a familiar face. And what he means by that is, like, say you watch this big scary movie, and you've got, you know, stock teenager A, stock teenager B, stock teenager C, and Chris Hemsworth. automatically from the beginning of your movie, you're thinking, Chris Hemsworth is going to survive this movie. And it takes you out of the movie because you recognize the guy, you associate him with his celebrity, not the character, and it kind of kills it. When you look at movies, horror movies, where you don't know anybody, it's total unknowns, it makes you sink into that this could be real feeling way faster and way more effectively than putting big name stars on there. So for that reason alone, if I was a world-class actor and director, no, I would not want to be in it because everybody would recognize me. I would want to use unknowns. So hopefully that answers your question pretty well. I didn't mean to get on a huge tangent about that, story that I wrote, but just to give you an idea of the kind of movies that I would be going for, something like that. Holly asks, top 5 underrated actors and actresses, or roles that you feel pushed a person into the spotlight and fame after filming. Well, I'll focus on the first question. Top 5 underrated actors or actresses. I actually was going to do a top 5 rundown on this, but while I was filming it, my camera battery ran out, and I just never went back to refilm it. So, to give an idea of what some top 5 underrated actors for me, in no particular order, because I really don't remember what I had him in. Cuba Gooding Jr., I honestly feel like is a really underrated actor. He's well known. He's gotten a lot of good roles over the years, but over the past 10 or so years, you barely see the guy. He's starting to get a little bit of a resurgence in TV now, but that guy is one of the most phenomenal actors out there. He should be holding statues every couple of years, and he just does not get, I don't know if it's his reasons that he has chosen bad movies or he's not offered good movies, but he should be given way better roles than he is given. So Cuba Gooding Jr., Will Patton, he's a really, really great character actor. You see this guy in The Postman, and you see him in Remember the Titans. Revenge of the Titans. Remember the Titans, he's the white coach, basically, the one who's helping Denzel Washington. He's in The Punisher. That guy is such a damn good actor that, he's never going to be somebody who leads a movie. He's never going to be somebody who's going to take off and be, a huge movie star. But every time I see that guy, I just totally get sucked into whatever role he's doing. So that guy, to me, never gets enough credit. He's starting to get a lot more recognition now after 2 weeks ago. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I've always loved that guy, and I've always sung his praises. He's a really underrated actor, and now that he is bashed in the brains of two of the most beloved, well, one of the most and one that people just kind of like, beloved characters on The Walking Dead, now everybody knows who that guy is. He's going to be on The Walking Dead for quite some time. He's going to totally take over that show, you mark my words. And that guy, just that one episode alone that we got in that pilot, there's a lot of people that don't like the pilot. There's a lot of people who love it. You guys know my thoughts on it. I put out my review, but his performance is Emmy-worthy in that episode. He's scary, he's funny, he's intimidating, he's wild. And I absolutely love that guy. He would probably be my number one, and I believe that he's not going to be an underrated actor anymore after this role in The Walking Dead. I think that guy is going to have a huge career resurgence. Ben Foster is a really underrated actor. He gets a lot of pretty good roles every once in a while, but that guy is, just like I said with Cuba Gooding Jr., he should be battling for a statue damn near every other year, because that guy is just lightning in a bottle in every role that he's in. Like with Hell or High Water this year was one of the best examples I could give. That guy, when he is on screen, he is just all encompassing. You just watch him, and whatever the hell he is doing, it doesn't matter what role it is, he sells it. He dives into it, and he just kills it every single time. So I love that guy. I wish he would do a lot more, but he seems pretty comfortable at kind of popping up here and there. And one guy that is absolutely the definition of underrated is Sam Rockwell. That guy, whatever movie he's in, he's the best part. I don't care what movie it is. He's in The Green Mile. He's the one that ends up being the killer. He's in Moon. He's in Galaxy Quest in a hilarious role. My favorite movie of his is The Way, Way Back. If you guys haven't seen that movie, it's a great coming-of-age movie. You can watch it with your family. He is hilarious in that movie. He's in Seven Psychopaths. That guy is so damn good that it just floors me why he is not in the forefront every single time we talk about best actors working today. Because that guy, like, I keep saying it, every movie that he's in, he's my favorite part. He's everybody's favorite part. Even if he's in a halfway decent movie, he's phenomenal. And just, I really hope, just like I did with Jeffrey Dean Morgan, that that guy just hits a role that just rockets him into superstardom, because he deserves it. He is world-class talent, and I just want to see him more. And for my last question, Rich asks, how many actors have made transition from child actor to adult actor that still are a driving force in the movie industry? Hello, Corey Feldman.
All she gonna do is twerk.
Hit the club, tell him.
They try to beat you down, they put you on the ground, they leave you lying there, they're broken down, they make a sound.
Okay, enough of that. The only person that I can think of that is still a driving force in the movie industry is Leo DiCaprio. A close second would be Christian Bale. A lot of people forget that he was a child actor. I think he was in a movie called Empire of the Sun. But Leo DiCaprio has been around forever. The guy started off with Critters 3, and then he was a short role in The Growing Pains. And, you know, he hit it big whenever he was in his early teens with, like, the Titanic and everything like that. And he was kind of the pretty boy of that era. And then as soon as he played William Costigan in The Departed, he became one of my favorite actors ever. Every movie that guy does, for the most part, I want to go see. You know, he did Inception, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. You know, like I just said, The Departed is great. Blood Diamond's a great movie. Shutter Island is a good movie that I think is pretty underrated. That's a movie that's actually a really fun second watch, which is not a very well-known concept nowadays, that you need to watch it a second time to appreciate it. And he obviously just won this past year for The Revenant. So that guy is absolutely still a driving force in the industry who was a child actor. And he's one of the very few, because as we know, child actors don't tend to last very long for many different reasons. A lot of them are money. A lot of them are drugs. So he's the only one I can think of. Now, Christian Bale, is, like I said, is a close second. I like Christian Bale a lot. I don't love him as much as everybody else. I think that his Batman performance is a little bit overrated. I think that his movies are phenomenal, but I think that his performance as Batman and Bruce Wayne, though they are better than the ones that we've gotten before, people would argue Michael Keaton is better, but his performance is a little bit here and there in those movies. His villains outshine him in almost every single one of those movies. But I love him in pretty much all the movies that he's done with, like, The American Hustle, and he did with David O. Russell is the guy I'm trying to think of. The boxing movie. He's done a lot of great movies with that director, and he is somebody that you keep your eye on, and every time he does a role, he's pretty much up for an Oscar. I think a lot of that is more popularity than it is deserved sometimes, but that goes with a lot of people who get Oscar nominations. So I'll say Leo DiCaprio. Well, that does it for my first Q&A episode, guys. Again, thank you so much for subscribing. I'm very happy and proud that I got to 100 subscribers. I know it's not a big number to a lot of people, but it's a big number to me. I enjoy talking to every single one of you. Thank you so much for the questions. A lot of these were a lot of fun to talk about. And continue to like and share my videos, please. It helps me get more subscribers. A lot of you guys have done a great job of helping me out with that. And continue to leave your comments below on my movie reviews or my other episodes. And just continue to talk with me, because I like talking with every single one of you guys. So thank you so much for sending in the questions for my first Q&A, and I will see you guys again very soon.